continuation of the introduction. Number 7.2, Salvation History as Revelation a posteriori. For the second definition of revelation, Cardinal Wojtyła appeals to the same council text, Gaudium et Spes 22, 1-2. Accordingly, the council taught, quote, the anthropological, even anthropocentric character of the revelation offered to mankind in Christ. This revelation is centered on man. Christ fully reveals man to man himself. But he does so by revealing the Father and the Father's love. See John 17:6. End quote. The revelation offered to mankind in Christ is of course historical revelation as reflected in the life and teachings of Jesus. We may thus speak of a double revelation. Karl Rahner. The relationship between revelation a priori and a posteriori is more clearly laid out and summarized, quote, Christ reveals man to himself. That means the, quote, mystery of man, made clear by revelation a posteriori offered in Christ, consists in the fact that every man, from the first moment of his existence, possesses a priori, quote, being in Christ, which belongs to his innermost nature as man. Hence, man's innermost nature and, quote, being in Christ are identical. If that is the case, then the, quote, new type of entirely Christocentric theology, which in relation to Christ ventures theology as anthropology, end quote, becomes a new type of entirely man-centered theology. Then, quote, double revelation acquires a double man-centered character. Then man, or, quote, the truth about man, becomes the actual object of double revelation. Then the assertion holds, quote, this revelation is centered on man. Therefore, not on Christ, nor on God. If man, from the first moment of his conception, keeps intact not only the imago, as Redemptor Hominis 13.3 asserts, but even the similitudo Dei, revelation a priori, then the, quote, revelation offered to mankind in Christ, revelation a posteriori, consists merely in proclaiming to all mankind their redemption in Christ, which is already accomplished, and hence their paramount dignity as participants of God's grace, as children of God. Revelation, which comes to us through salvation history, becomes the mirror of man's innermost nature. This kind of revelation is per se man-centered. Consequently, salvation history itself, in which revelation has occurred, loses its genuinely historical character. This holds for the historical work of salvation accomplished by Jesus Christ, and equally for human actions on which salvation depends. If each person is radically saved and justified a priori, then the redemption is ultimately not an event which was realized in history, but something which belongs to human nature as such. Then, too, the gift of, quote, being in Christ is no longer a question of application and decision on the part of man in history, but merely a matter of human consciousness. The offer of self-awareness, which Christ makes to mankind, quote, by revealing the Father and the Father's love, is directed towards an exercise of consciousness in order to bring to light man's innermost nature, as well as the, quote, truth about man and his dignity. We may conclude, To the fact of universal salvation as revelation a priori corresponds the historical revelation a posteriori embodied in the life and teachings of Jesus, which reveals to man, or makes him aware of the dignity of his innermost nature. In the process of man's self-awareness, consciousness plays the decisive role. Like revelation a priori, so also revelation a posteriori is essentially man-centered. To the double revelation corresponds the double faith.